And please give a warm welcome to Dr. Phillips. I'm going to be introducing her, and then you're going to do the second introduction. Okay. So,
can we see her on screen?
It's okay, I'm all right. I took my mask off. Okay. Dr. Phillips joined CCSU's faculty in 1994 and joined the African Studies Committee, playing an instrumental role in establishing the Center for Africana Studies in 2001. She was the center's director, interim, and co-director for more than 15 years. She is a faculty senator and is a member of several committees, including the Minority Recruitment Retention Committee, Affirmative Action, Employee Advisory Committee, and International Studies Committee. In 2019, as part of the Ebenezer Bassett Memorialization Committee, Dr. Phillips and colleagues successfully renamed CCSU's Social Sciences Building after alumnus and educational trailblazer Ebenezer D. Bassett. Dr. Phillips is a founding member of CCSU's John Lewis Institute for Social Justice, established in 2021. Known as a dedicated educator and advocate for students, Dr. Phillips has been nominated multiple times for the CCSU Excellence in Teaching Award, an honor she garnered in 2016. In 2022, she was awarded the Distinguished Service Award, one of CCSU's highest honors. Dr. Phillips earned her bachelor's degree and master's degree in social work from Florida State University. She holds a doctorate in applied anthropology from the University of South Florida. Please welcome Dr. Evelyn Phillips.
But I brought my whole cadre of people.
Yeah, so next I'm going to introduce Dr. Robert S. Wolff. He began as Dean of the Carroll A. Ammon College of Liberal Arts and Sciences in July 2018. As Dean, he is responsible for 17 academic departments in the arts, humanities, social, and behavioral sciences. He also oversees the honors program and numerous interdisciplinary programs, including an international studies major and minors in diverse areas such as archaeology, community engagement, religious studies, and social justice. His duties include developing and evaluating curriculum, supporting faculty scholarship and outreach, and collaborating with other academic deans as a member of the Academic Affairs Council of Deans. Dr. Wolff earned a BA in Political Science with a minor in History from the honors program of Swarthmore College. He later received a master's and PhD in History from the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities. He joined the faculty at CCSU in 1997 as an assistant professor in the Department of History and was subsequently promoted to associate professor and professor. He has served as chair of the Department of History, acting chair of the Department of Theater, and in numerous faculty leadership roles. Dr. Wolff studies the history, memory, African.
I think, first of all, before we get started, I want to thank Center for inviting us here. Dr. Mahoney.
I didn't have anything to do with it.
All right. So,
I just made them change the date.
Thank you. This is a perfect time because we are recruiting the next cohort. But before we do that, I would like for Dr. Wright to introduce himself and also Stephanie and Toyin as well.
Good afternoon, and thank you for letting me crash your party. I'm glad to be here. I am the Vice President for Equity and Inclusion, and this is my second semester. Second week of my second semester here at CCSU. I have about 35 years in higher education leadership, the lion's share of which is student affairs. In 2010, something occurred in which I spoke up against and about and kind of counseled my former president, which resulted in him asking me to write a job description to be the inaugural Chief Diversity Officer at Nassau Community College. So that started changing my life from student affairs to the life that we're in now. I'm glad to be here.
Thank
Good.
you.
Good. Well, you're welcome any Monday or Tuesday at lunchtime, all of you.
Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie and I am a student here as an undergraduate. I have a political science and I am privileged to be a CCSU student leader and also a John Lewis Institute, which is just a scholar. John Lewis Institute to me means, the daily challenges that we see every day, and it's really like a platform for us to kind of like express ourselves in a safe kind of like environment without any judgment. And in the past, we've held many discussions around social issues, and honestly, I've learned a lot. It's really like in addition to what I learned, in the classroom. So John Lewis Institute for me is a class, and I am very privileged to be a John Lewis Institute scholar, and I think this is beyond CCSU because as a Black woman, I am so much, related to John Lewis, but back at the end of the day, and I look forward to finishing the program. I am part of the first cohort. Yes, I'm like, one of the members that kind of like did the course. They selected us. We're not, on the board or anything, but we are like the first. And that's what I'm going to do.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Evelyn. Science. Graduating. I'm part of the John Lewis Scholar. So our program is solely focusing on justice and justice issues from gender, racial, police inequality, from finance equalities, and we use that information to start improving our communities and start initiatives. That's the main mission.
Thank you so much. I think one of the questions I want to ask you before you decided to do the program, when did you first hear of the John Lewis Institute?
I heard last semester from one of my professors on this program, Dr. Przorsky, and then Dr. Mahoney also talked about it a little bit.
I wouldn't assume that anybody had heard of it.
That's kind of why we're asking. That could be why we're asking.
Yes.
I probably sent around an email to all the, so why doesn't everyone else introduce themselves real quickly? So,
Yeah, great.
so our guests know who we are. I'll go first. I'm Mary Ann Mahoney. I'm the director, and Robert Wolff was chair of the history department when I got hired.
A while back, but not
A
too
while
far
back,
Not
a
too
while
far
back. And I have been privileged to be a friend of his and a friend of Dr. Phillips's for a long time.
I'm Balsina. I'm an undergrad and I'm majoring in psychology.
And she works.
And I work here.
My name is Martin. I'm a political science bachelor's, but also a international studies master's student. Was part of SDA, and I work here.
My name is Isabella de Souza. I'm a sophomore here. I declared my major last week because I didn't have a major, so I'm an MIS major now. And yeah, I'm from Brazil, so that's it from there. And I work here.
And she's the coordinator of Talking Tuesdays.
Yeah.
My name is Annalise. I'm an elementary education major, and I'm also a student assistant here at the LACC.
My name is Jefferson. I'm a history BACB major and a student assistant here at the LACC.
I'm Katie. I'm getting my master's in counselor education, and I'm the GA here.
I'm Millie Guzman Young, and the UA here. I used to be the LASO vice president a long time ago. I have a bachelor's in biology, and I'm hoping to get a master's.
Wow. Thank you so much. we really appreciate all of you being here today, and we know that you're going to carry the word forward. in
Yep.
terms of
And it'll
encouragement.
be on our YouTube channel.
Yes, because we are in the process of recruiting for the next cohort. The application will be available on the second week in February, and it's due in the second week in March. And so I just want to kind of tell you a little about the John Lewis Institute and what happens and all the steps, so people would know what they're getting into. Go to the slides. So, and those go back to
So, Katie, are we sharing the screen so that this will be?
yeah, if you could.
Yeah, I shared the screen when we started, and
Okay.
I just bounced back to this.
Okay.
one.
So if you think about John Lewis, what do you know about him?
What I was going to say earlier, before she cut me off,
Oh, I'm sorry.
you okay? Is that I've never really heard about John Lewis, and it kind of like saddens me because
Before
of the
you came
legacy.
into
Right. Unfortunately, we've heard about Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., and the King himself, and Rosa Parks, and all the, I could say, influential figures that kind of like trace Black history. But unfortunately, I've never really heard about John Lewis, and this is why I kind of really uphold and value the program. This is why I'm here today. It was a requirement, but I knew I had the time and I showed up. I'm saying this because I feel like, I appreciate the fact that we are putting him into light and the initiative to implement not a program for him, but uphold his legacy.
his legacy? What about others? What do you know about John Lewis?
I remember him being right along the side of Martin Luther King in the marches, and like a civil rights leader. I see him.
I think that what you show us is that the educational system is not as diverse as we would like for it to be. And as we talk about social justice, we're on the firing line right now to expand the knowledge of the United States education system to be inclusive. That state that I come from, called Florida, is at the front line of this. So one of the things that we are talking about is social justice. And there is a scholar who says that, he's a Native American scholar, unless we have a common memory, it is difficult to have social justice. And so John Lewis is just one part of recognizing that we have created the Institute as a way to train new leaders to be on the front line of social justice. If you can change the slide, please. So one of the things that we know, here you see John Lewis with King and Abernathy. John Lewis was 16 years old when he started his activism. Comes from a small town in Alabama near Troy, which is kind of interesting because, I've been there and I've seen it, and some of my ancestors come from that region. So 16 years old, he just died a couple years ago, prematurely, right? So that is not so far away when we think about the things that he had to deal with and the battles that we have today. And so I don't think anyone in this room is 16. You're all behind that, right? So that means, okay, all right. So that means that all of us, can have the agency, and certainly perhaps not the same challenges that he did. And so, but we know that there are challenges. If you didn't know, just think about what happened this weekend, a few days ago with the death of another innocent person, just going home, and then is killed. So those are the kind of issues that brought the John Lewis Institute to CCSU. Dr. Toro, if you can change the slide. When John Lewis was active, this is a later photo, from Selma, and I had a chance to go there. he got his head cracked open, you know, fighting for the rights of just being a human in the United States. And so this later, people will go back to the site of memory, as Dr. Wolff researches, that, you know, here someone bring dogs and, you know, batons and all that to beat people physically against the right of being just treated as a human. And so I want you to kind of think about John Lewis's legacy of what he was, courage, you know, and that's one of the things that we're looking for. People who are courageous to stand up for social justice and, you know, have the knowledge of been moving forward for that. So if you change. So here is, you know, a photo. You can see him holding his head. You know, yes, that was in Alabama, but we've had, you know, these kind of things that happen all over the United States. As Malcolm X said, this, what, south of Canada? It's Jim Crow. So, you know, but we are trying to look at the structural inequalities that people face every day in their life, whether it's not enough food or whether the fact that the education system is unequal, all of those kind of things are what we're hoping to address in the John Lewis. So you can see the mission is to empower a new generation. As you know, some of us are getting old. I'll speak for myself. Yeah, but these issues, we want to focus on how do we create a community that's filled with joy and freedom and not so have to worry about so much and not have to worry, oh, will I have this kind of responsibility? For example, the United States has never signed the UN Declaration of Human Rights for the right to shelter. They didn't sign that. They didn't sign it for the right to health either. You know, I was talking to a woman this yesterday who's a physician and telling me that they are only allowed to spend 15 minutes with each patient. And the fact that the people who run the medical system never have gone to medical school.
No, they're all business people.
Exactly,
Yeah.
business people. So we have taken health and housing and turned into commodities. And so in order to think about these issues, we want to have you empowered to know what the issues are, but be able to address them, you know.
And if I can jump in, one of the other reasons we're looking to support a new generation of leaders is a consciousness that the issues that will empower and motivate you will be different than the ones that motivate our generation. And that, Dr. Wright, you want to jump in?
And one of the things that we look at is what's at stake. And the purpose for a lot of universities that have John Lewis Institutes is that we continue the momentum of progress. Congressman John Lewis did a lot of work to keep Congress woke. The term back then was conscious.
Yeah.
You know, which is you know, synonymous with woke. To understand that we need DACA, we need DREAM Act, we need Voting Rights Act. We need to make sure we stop industrializing prisons. We need to make sure that the pursuit of happiness and the pursuit of health and wellness is equitable and equal to all people. It's imperative that what we saw last weekend, even though the perpetrators were African American, but what you saw were the result of years of institutionalized racism to the extent that now you have self-stereotype. And so what John Lewis is trying to teach and was doing as a congressman is to make sure that America holds up to its true tenets, that all men are created equal, all human. And when he's men, it's the humanity.
Exactly.
You know, whatever your orientation or gender is, all humanity is created equal. And so that fight must continue because there is a morass of propaganda trying to push back the hands of time and take us to a place that almost to 1915 to that great first movie in the United States, which was initially called The Klansman, but then changed its name to Birth of a Nation. And so we have a lot of work to do.
I would say 1864. No, before that, 1862.
Yeah, well, 1819, but you know, I mean, and we can have a full
Okay.
historical conversation about 1560 when the King of England sent a philosopher to designate color and race so that they can use it for exploration and exploitation, which was, you know, 1619 did not start overnight. It was just a strategic plan. And it's going to take equal and intelligent strategy to get us out so that we never go back again. And my wife's from Nicaragua, my great-grandfather's from Jamaica, I have relatives in Ghana, my great-grandmother's a Native American in York, Pennsylvania. And if we don't fix our history, we're going to repeat our history. And I'm going to shut up.
No, I wanted to ask the students, what are the issues they feel need to be addressed today? You know, because like I said, we came from a different generation, you know.
I think it's really, it's the Latin American, it's the center students we want to ask. We have this conversation.
Yeah.
Food insecurity is one of them, but.
Absolutely.
You're not.
I'll let them talk.
No,
Grad students don't
I'm
count.
old.
Yeah.
No,
You guys.
Bella.
No. Okay. Well. I would say an issue. At least the first thing that popped into my head is, I don't know if this relates to it, but like housing and affordability, because you know everyone expects now that at least I'm in my 20s. Oh, like, you know, I should be moved out by now, like whatever. I'm like, we really can't. We can't live on our own. Wages are not livable. They're truly not, you know, I always see things online where it's like, oh, like older people are like, oh, back in my day, like, you know, I would have had a house by now. Your house was like 10 cents. Whereas ours, like the wages and the costs are just not equaling. And I feel like we're kind of like stuck, you know.
And with that, Social Security, the inflation and Social Security. And you're right, you're spot on.
That does sound like a social justice issue to me.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You know, I think it's more like a wait. Let's hear from them.
Well, for me, because I came from Brazil and I experienced a lot of things in Brazil and then coming here in the United States and experience here as well. I have a long list. I can start like
You should have started.
first with the DACA, which is something that I'm always like pushing. Dr. Mahoney's like, please, let's do
Immigration.
something.
Uh-huh.
Immigration.
You don't have to push very hard.
No,
It's
we
just
don't know.
finding time.
I know. Also, because the way that I grew up and then coming here, kind of like it was something more similar to the foster care system too. It's something that I'm also very passionate about. And then moving here, the first city that I moved to was Hartford. Then I moved to Burlington. And to be honest, like I knew what racism was, but you never really experience until you're like out of that comfortable zone. Because in Hartford, we have so many diversity. As soon as you walk out, it's so different. And one thing that I'm always talking to Hannah about is the education system. Because if you go to a school in Hartford and you're walking in school in Burlington, it's so different. Like I didn't know what is, my little brother, he's only 10 years old and has music class. My music class in Hartford was like little pieces of drums that we had to play. My brother had a saxophone. I never saw a saxophone in my life. It was my first time seeing one. And like there, the bus, they come to your house to pick you up. Hartford, it's not like that. There's no sidewalks in Burlington. You don't see people walking, no bus stops. Like if you want to go somewhere, you need a car. So those things kind of like I'm very passionate about, and we always talking about it. Like every time because she's gonna be a future teacher, and she knows things in the system, the education system too. So it's like I have a long list.
Yeah, because housing in the United States is based on property values. So if your property value is only 100,000 and somebody else got $1 million, the school will get more money in those communities.
I know.
Yeah, so that's an unequal and injustice, you know? And so that's why the state of Connecticut, during the Shelf versus O'Neill, said that the state constitution requires equal education for everyone, you know.
To piggyback off of that, school segregation and coming of that was the magnet schools and, you know, bringing in a pool of diversity for students to receive like better resources, materials, teachers. But I still find that there is a flaw in that because it is a lottery system. And so the students that are not placed in those schools they're still receiving, you know, a less valuable education. So like, for example, I went to New Grant High and I feel like coming at least here to higher education, I had a lack of understanding, whereas other students, other counterparts in my classes, they understood material right away, or they already had that background knowledge, which I wasn't able to have. So I'm very passionate on that topic as well.
Right. So these are the kinds of issues that we discuss in the John Lewis Institute, is to get deeper into that, bringing in people who are part of the outside world, if you want to say, you know, who addressing these issues. And so that way, it gives you a chance to meet people who are on the front line, but you're also learning things that, you know, maybe you can do, like environmental justice. You know, as we see, look at winter here. I love it, but we know it's a reason that we haven't had much snow, getting a whole lot of rain. And they said the weather in January today is like March weather. So we, as a human race, have made these, you know, errors in terms of destroying the environment. So those are the, you know, other issues and stuff. You can go to the next slide. So,
Mr. Garcia, do you want to add anything?
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Go ahead.
Basically,
I think you should talk.
Basically, I'd say, like, in piggyback off what they said, I agree with a lot with Evelyn and what Trina said, because I grew up in Waterbury, so I was able to experience the public school in their shape, and then like high school, my parents were really pushing for religious education, so I got a scholarship to Catholic high school in Waterbury, but like the difference between being in the public schools and like you know, diversity and stuff, like you could feel this issue.
Yes, environment and how you make the adjustment and stuff. You know, so we can skip this, but we're going to come back to it because I want you to. Yeah.
Can I add on transportation? I have a student who wants to work with us, right? She's a CCSU student. And we've had more than one student come in and talk about this. She has a 2-hour every direction commute to get here from public transportation from Wethersfield Avenue in Hartford.
Yeah.
It's like a 15-minute drive, 20-minute drive,
Yeah.
right?
It's right behind the school in a sense.
By bus, it's 2 hours,
Wow.
right?
And how many buses? 2 or 3?
At least 2, I'm not sure. And we had who was that other student who came from down New Britain Avenue somewhere and said it was what, 3 hours to get
Because he
here?
had to take 2 buses. And
3 buses in 2 hours?
Was it 2 or 3
I don't know.
buses, but it took so long, and then to go back home on top of it. That's a long time.
Yeah.
Which one of you running for the SGA?
I'm part of SBA.
We need to talk. At my previous institutions, we always sponsored a bus. The SGA.
I was, the institution that I work with a lot in Brazil sponsors buses from all of their main feeder campuses.
So it's a direct ride, and we just bought a
Yeah.
bus, it's you know, CCSU, SGA bus, and we go from we did it at Senior Westbury, we did it at NYIT, did it at Nassau, SGA helped buy a bus at Nassau Community College.
You see, problems can be solved.
I have a question. Why couldn't the government offset the cost, the taxes, like the tax differences, to make it equality, like, so that everyone can have equal access to education? This thing.
Well, I come from Long Island, New York, and things are a little different because in New York we have counties, and then counties, we have villages, and the villages' taxes are promulgated by the residents, as Dr. Phillips said. And there are, in Nassau County, there are 79 independent homogeneous school districts. And people will flip their wigs if we try to, they call it urbanized. Because in the city of New York, you can live in Queens and go to school in the Bronx, or you can live in Manhattan and go to school in Brooklyn. And they're saying, you can't do that to us. We want to have our homogeneous school district. So when you come, that everyone lives together, and so everyone, in Frankfurt, you have people from Nicaragua and Central America, in Garden City, you have people from Russia and Israel, and so, and they all don't change until they go away to college. And they like that. Parents like it, the legislators support it, and it's a hard fix to change.
But Millie also, and Craig, if I could just jump in, the issue is not necessarily just paying like how much it costs, all right? Because for the last 2 years, public buses in Connecticut have been free. But there are no buses on weekends from place to place. Schedules are very erratic, right? And even if it's free, if you have to spend 2 hours in each direction to get to campus, that's a roadblock.
That's 2 hours when you can't be working to pay for the education.
Right, and it's 4 hours of transportation altogether,
Yeah.
And that's
Right.
exhausting.
even if it's free.
Dr. Newman, I think the bus routes, they only from 6 a.m. to 11:30. And, I mean, there are places that they don't go to. So you have to like walk to the bus stop and all that.
Yeah, exactly, it's a real problem.
And some communities, the buses primarily was going directly to the mall, and stuff. And, one community I lived in, after 6 o'clock, you had to call to get a bus to make sure. So you see all these kind of things. So these are things to work on. And so you can see, as we've been talking about, these contemporary needs for social justice. So if you can go to the next slide, please. So I think I want to, any student is eligible except if during their senior year. So you can apply in high school, you can apply your first year, second year, third year. Because it takes a 2-year commitment, you cannot apply during your senior year, unless you're gonna be a super senior, I guess.
You need 2 years.
2 years.
You have to commit 2 years to
2
the program.
years, yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Yes, and so this is the website link, and you will see, we have some flyers around, I know, in Bassett Hall with the QR code and everything on it as well. But you will go to this website and you're going to have, you can click on it.
Just over there.
Okay, so if you go into the website, you'll see where we are in the process of redoing the website because too much text. We want to have a lot more photos of the people and the activities that we're doing. And so if you go down and stuff, you will see, we're going to have a link for the application. It's usually pops up.
There is a link for the page, but the application isn't live yet, so you don't
Yeah.
need to click it. If you go back up,
Yeah.
if you go back, it's on the left in that banner. It says
Four.
apply. Don't bother though, because it's not ready yet.
Yeah.
It's there, but
So
it's like,
yes, so we're in the process of changing it. And so one of the things that we want students to be able to make the commitment for the time. And once you say I'm a John Lewis Scholar, meaning that the committee has selected you, you have to say, okay, I'm going to commit to it. It can't be, I can come sometime, I can't come other times, those kind of things. If you go back to the slides, I have like to the next.
And I just wanted to add, being that we get credits for it, if attendance is poor, isn't that going to affect the person's overall grade, and which will then affect their GPA?
Yes, as in the fall, we will start it in the class. It will be a class. We already have put it forth to the curriculum committee because as of now, we meet on a Thursday evening. And some people say they got to work, other people say I can't come, or whatever reason. So we want to create a space where everybody will show up. So the steps are you apply and by March, and then we will notify you by April. And so when you go away, you will know that you're going to be a part of the John Lewis Scholars. So we come back in the summer, we have a week retreat to kind of, bond and get to know everyone and kind of outline what it is. Then you continue to address social justice issue and meet local activists. But even during the retreat, we start that. Last time we went into Hartford, looked into communities. We met some activists. We had a drumming session. It's not all.
Which Millie came to.
Yeah, that's right. It's fun too. And you're living in the dorm, and unfortunately you're eating Sodexo, but we're working on that. But
So, Dr. Phillips, going back to the question of working. So, for the retreat, is there any way to compensate students who might lose wages from employment if they're going away for a whole week? Because most of the students here not only work here, but many of them have jobs off campus.
We don't have that built in yet, this stipend, which is some EOP programs have that. We don't have such a lofty budget yet. And so that's something we can certainly look at in the long-term planning, which would make a stipend a great idea, especially if we're going to have someone for a week or two. I think I like that because now you have a full commitment.
I just
wanted to add, I don't think, students should get stipend for it, being that we already get credits for it, because when I attend my classes, I don't get the stipend, I get the credits. That compensates.
We didn't set up for credits for this retreat though. We only set up credits for the fall and spring semester.
I hear what Stephanie's saying. It's a conversation.
Yeah.
It's something we have to explore.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense.
So, and then we come back to the spring and you continue these issues, bringing, and also preparing for internship. An internship is required, 100 to 120 hours. Some people do 100 and some people choose to do up to 120 because they're doing it based on their discipline. Like, for example, if you're majoring in political science or anthropology, you have to do like 120 hours in terms of internship, and that will be relevant to the John Lewis Institute.
Right. So if you're a criminal justice major doing an internship, which is required in the major, if it would fit within the rubric, then you meet the requirement of doing that.
Right. So
you don't have to do two
internships, although some people
will.
And so once you complete the internship, of course, we need to have the documentation of all of that. You can do it in the summer or the fall, and then you come back in the spring semester. We do a final project. Everyone has to do a final project. And this year, we are doing what we call invisible labor. It's people who are not always face forward in the classroom. We're not interviewing teachers, professors. We're not interviewing deans. We're interviewing the people who make the salads, who come and sweep the floors and clean up the bathroom or make sure you get your financial aid. Those are the individuals. So we want to do their oral histories, post their stories around with photos, and then have a final event to highlight them. So,
which I'm thinking Dr. Mahoney will approve of this plan.
My grandfather used to say the only two people you needed to know in the school were the principal's secretary and the janitor.
Yeah.
They were smaller then, right?
Yeah.
Still true.
I'll tell you when I started, when I left the Evelyn Life and Casualty marketing division, because of racial things that I saw, I went to start my career in education K-12 as a permanent substitute. And how did I become a permanent sub? Not talking to the principal who knew my family, but talking to the secretary, because secretaries are there early in the morning and they call the subs. And guess what? I was first on the list to the extent, you know what, Craig, we're going to just make you a permanent sub.
Tired of calling you.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So those are the things.
Sub for your twin sister, Dr. Ledbetter, who was an English professor.
so, it's a way to demonstrate to the community, these are the people among us, And so it's, Dr. Wolff was telling me that we have someone whose mother was a Holocaust survivor, and someone who's an opera singer.
Not opera singer, someone who sings in the choir of a church, one of our custodians.
Yeah.
I think you told me about that.
Yeah. But it's just so, the outside life, and like I know the someone in our department in the building, he came as a refugee. Many times people come as refugees, but they have full-fledged lives as doctors, lawyers, or whatever, and starting all over again. So
I think we're also trying to make the point that people aren't defined by what they do for a living, right? They're defined by many other things as well, right? And if you treat somebody as just a custodian, then you're not understanding them at a human level.
And we want to have that community as inclusive as possible, and I thought that would be a way to do that.
So I think, what's our timing here, Dr. Bonnie?
It's at 1.
Oh, 1 o'clock?
We generally try to end at 1, but if you want to keep talking,
I think
nobody's
we're
gonna
almost
throw you
finished.
out.
I think the next step is just the photos of people. Yeah, that's it. Sorry you can't see that left side. That's the first cohort.
Yeah.
And the second cohort is from the summer. That's when Mr. Epps came and did drumming lesson with us. And you can see Mr. Fothergill there. He's one of the board members, but he was also doing some of the training. But these are all members. Now, the problem with the John Lewis Institute is that we don't have diverse groups of people. For some reason, people think if it's John Lewis, it's all black. It's not. John Lewis was an internationalist. Everybody was involved. If you go to the space in Atlanta, they had set up like a cohort of people from all over the world to come there for training. And so I hope that the next cohort will look like the United Nations. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And Bella had a question.
Oh no, I was just gonna add on to that because I was literally thinking that in my head right before you said it, that I think it's important to get all kinds of people from different backgrounds to work on issues, because if it's only like one specific background, like they're gonna be like, okay, well, I'm not from that background, what does that have to do with me? I think it's really important to mix everyone, because it shows that we all care for each other's issues, because we are all human at the end of the day.
Everyone is welcome here.
Yeah, and same with the John Lewis, and that's the thing. Sometimes people say, oh, that's an affinity group, activity, so I'm not welcome. I'm an anthropologist. There's one human race, and we all have the same problems. Yeah.
And also with ageism too, because I'm old, but I'm also interested. I'm an activist.
Yes, exactly. She does all this stuff about Cuban in the healthcare system, and bringing people here. Any questions? Anybody online want a question?
Is there anybody online? I don't know that there's anybody online.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know what camera that you're using, but I gotta get that from my office because I look much younger on this camera. So
We got it from the IT folks.
I'm
I
gonna
don't
call
know.
them, I need that. Tonight, whatever that is.
It's not the camera, you look young.
No.
It's the jeans.
But just remember, join together, the ants ate the elephant, join together, the spiders tied the lion. And so we work together. Women's health issues on LGBTQ issues on voter rights issues on Emmett Till anti-hate crime issues. Work together, because that's how we get things done. Let no one separate us, no one divide us, because when we're divided, we are weakened.
They want us to be divided.
There you go.
They conquer.
Yeah, I'm not sure who they is, but yeah.
Thank you.